Okay. All right. Welcome to All Sides of Kennebec. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Karen. And we are here with Jeremy and Sam Hunkle. I'm horrible with last names, so if I butchered that, I apologize. But he is a gubernatorial candidate, and you are running independently, correct?
An unenrolled independent. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. But yeah, let's
It's
uh,
Sam Hunkler.
what's that?
Sam Hunkler.
Hunkler. What I say? I think I
Hunkle.
said that right. Hunkler. Yeah. So
Right, yeah.
I'm horrible with names, but anyways. So yeah, welcome to All Sides of Kennebec.
Thank you.
Jeremy knows a little bit more about your campaign, so I'll let him
Yep.
start this off, and then we can dive in and talk about some issues that are important to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So just some background. I heard you on the radio being interviewed by George Hill, Rick Tyler show. Wonderful people. And then I decided to look you up, and then that was when I emailed you and we reached out. We weren't able to, when I reached out to you about a month ago, we weren't able to schedule something. So, but then you and I were luckily able to touch base, and I'm glad that we were able to figure something out. So why don't you start off with giving me a quick history of yourself, just as like an introduction to the people that might not know about you.
Oh, I never know when to start here. You have to be the short version and long version.
Just a short version's fine.
What's that?
Just a short version is fine if you want.
Okay. Well, let's see. I first came to actually I was born and raised in Ohio. I was the eighth of nine kids. And I first came to Maine. I hitchhiked to Maine when I was 17 years old, and I went up to visit my brother up in Limestone, who's up at Loring Air Force Base. Um, and so I came through, and I loved Maine. And I mean, back then, that's what people did. They hitchhiked, or at least I did. I hitchhiked back and forth to school and college. Went back, went to college. Went in the Peace Corps. Went to Kenya and East Africa, where I was a teacher. I met my future wife there, Kelly Canane from South Portland, Maine. And I came back to the States. I went to medical school. Kelly and I got married. We had our first child in Cleveland. Then we moved to Green, Maine, while I went to my residency program in family practice at Central Maine Medical Center in Lewiston. I was there for 3 years. We had two more children there. And then we went to Alaska because I was a National Health Scholar, which means that I had they supported me during medical school, so I had a payback. So I went up and served in the Indian Health Service in Metlakatla, Alaska, in the Net Island Reserve. I was there for 3 years. It was on an island. The only way to get there was a float plane or a ferry. I was there for 3 years. We had our fourth child there, and then we came back to Maine, and we moved to Beals, where we've been ever since. I've worked as a family doctor for the last 35 years. I retired in the fall, and I have worked in several different places in Maine, but mainly in a place called Harrington, Maine, which is a fairly funded rural health center. I spent 20 years there, but I've also worked in Corinth and Lewiston and Blue Hill and Ellsworth. I worked in emergency rooms for a while. I've also worked back in Kenya. I went to New Zealand for a while and practiced there for a short temporary duty. Also worked out in Gallup, New Mexico with the Navajo. Worked in Arizona. Worked in Ohio. So I've traveled around a bit just doing temporary duty here and there. And then this fall, I was thinking about retiring. I was kind of set to retire at the end of the last year because my board certification ran out. I didn't want to get recertified and go through that process. So I said, this looks like a good time to retire. I ended up retiring a couple months early because of the COVID mandate, because I didn't really want to get a COVID shot. So I finished early. And then and I've been thinking about doing something with politics for quite some time. I've become so I've been so disheartened by the way things are, the division and how things are going, and we're just getting more and more further apart. I don't see either party being able to bring us back together. And so I said, well, I'm either going to jump in or drop out. So here I am. I've jumped in. I decided I can always drop out later if this doesn't work, or if I get too disgusted with things. But so that's why I'm here. I'm just here. You know, most people are looking for something different. in our political system. They just don't know what that looks like.
Right.
And so that's what I'm offering, something different, and I'm doing it with no money. I don't have fame, fortune, or a political party. I'm trying to do it just as an ordinary citizen, which I think we need to get back to. I think I don't have any political experience. I've never run for office, and I think that's might be what's needed. Just a very fresh outlook on things, and
Mhm.
that's what I'm offering. I'm not been naive in this process. I've got a high or steep learning curve, but most of us do when we go into something new. And so, but I feel like I have the experience of life experience to be able to do this. And so that's why I've come this far.
So yeah, thanks. That kind of jumps in, segues into one of the other things I want to talk about. One of my big reasons for supporting you is that I heard on the radio that you were into the community and localization, essentially.
Hmm.
I think you put it like something that happens in Westbrook might not necessarily happen somewhere else in the state. So that's probably one of my biggest reasons for supporting your candidacy is because I'm as a libertarian, I'm kind of the same way where I don't really want things passed necessarily at the state level. I want them to be, maybe some like loose guidelines, so to speak, and then more like towards the county, maybe at the highest, but also more towards the local communities, towns, municipalities, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, can you elaborate on some of your beliefs on that one as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're ever going to have a government of the people, by the people, for the people have to be involved. The problem is I see in our political system is everybody's looking for a savior.
Hmm.
We're looking for a hero to come in and change to fix everything. And whenever we do that, it's like make Maine great again, make America great again. I mean, so you put this person in here, and they're going to solve all the problems,
Right.
but it doesn't work. It never. I mean, you may solve it for some people, but not for others. And so then it's going to flip flop back and forth, and that's what we've been having for some time. And so my whole idea is that um, it really is, if we're going to have it from the bottom up, people, it starts with communities, but people have to start taking more responsibility for government. When we're looking for a hero or savior, we just give all of our power over to them, and then we just watch. We sit back and watch, and if they screw up, well, it's their fault. It doesn't have anything to do with us.
Right.
So but that's how we've become, and that's why everybody wants to know my position, my position, my position. What am I going to do? Well,
Hmm.
I'm one voice. I am one voice out of 1.3 million people, and I have some opinions, but I want to hear yours too. And that
Right.
really is about coming together. It's really about finding. My slogan is, let's find common ground using common sense for the common good. And so whenever I tackle anything, the more I dig my heels in about any issue or policy, the less likely I am to find common ground. And so that's really what I'm all about, is to get people together, bring people together, different sides, all sides, and let's see what we can come up with together. And I believe one thing I believe I can do, I can hear all sides. I believe I can negotiate. Um, but I do believe that it has to start at the local level. I mean, in Beals, again, it is very different than what's needed in Westbrook or Waterville, and we know what we need, what works and what doesn't work. And so to have somebody tell us from the top about how we're going to do things, that doesn't make any sense at all. And so, yeah, I think we should have guidelines. Think we should have recommendations. But I really do believe that the real power, if the people are going to have the power, it has to start at a community level. And that community can be a town, it can be a group of people, it can be a neighborhood, it can be, a
A county,
community. What's that?
even a county.
Yeah, county. It could be a county.
Yeah.
And it's, you start at the smaller communities and well, and enlarge it from there. But it starts at each. I think about small towns, and that's because that's where I'm from. And Beals,
Right.
so
The same way.
Beals and Jonesboro, Addison, Harrington. We have all these small communities around, and every community is a little bit different, and the needs are a little bit different. I think I look at the school in mostly small towns. The school is the hub of the community, and I would really like to see that be. Let's what's the right word? Let's foster that community within the school by bringing elderly in for lunches. Let's bring daycare to schools, and
Mhm.
so that so that people can work. They bring all their children to school, and
Right.
you have daycares right there. And so the more you do that, the more you have people coming to one place, and so you create more community because there's there's a lot less community now than there was 50 years ago.
Yeah,
People
it's
are much
unfortunate.
more divided. They're much more separated. I think with people being on their phones, I mean, there's community that way as well. But it's a little different than being together in a physical space together.
Yep.
So yeah, and
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I noticed that you focused on community. Seems to be a big focus for you. Um, with the redistricting of houses, the house districts, we over the years we've seen a lot of divide between CD1 and CD2. Do you feel that with the redistricting of the house numbers, do you feel that that's a move in the right direction? Do you think that will unify the state of Maine, or do you feel that's going to set us back?
Well, that redistricting is all based on population, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, and it flip flops every 10 years. It starts at one, and then
Yeah,
10
and
right.
then goes and
one.
I
So
mean I know that, for example, I mean, I don't know exactly how that's done, but it has to be approved by the legislature, both sides of the legislature. Whether
correct.
that's I think that that's something I don't know if we can change or we have any control over because the population does change and people move in, move out. So you do have to redistrict because every district has to have a certain number of people in it. And how you go about that has to be a bipartisan way of doing it. And it does seem like that's happening. Now, the specifics of that, I can't really talk about what specific things has happened because of that. You guys are probably know more. It hasn't changed that much down in Washington County for us.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But it may be more of an issue other places, but it hasn't been for us that I can see.
I think it's kind of more of an
Okay.
issue along like the outliers, like maybe Waterville, kind of area, Augusta kind of area, but that's probably there's not many places
It,
that
it's
have
it, it's
tax.
probably going to be more of the contested areas that it seems that it'll be more focused in on, I guess.
Like a
But
party.
probably like the towns that seem to be more of the focus areas when it comes to voting. The more swing counties, I guess, or towns and stuff. So
Yeah. Well, again, I think that's um, the specifics of that. I can't really speak to because I don't know how that's worked for you guys in the bigger places. So
Yep. I was
I,
happy
I was just
in
I
Oakland.
was just curious.
Results.
I was just curious to know if you had seen any type of difference out campaigning with any of the redistricting. It was all. That
that
was
has
the main point I was getting at.
that has not come up anywhere. I mean, that question has not come up to me. Actually, it hasn't come up to me once. So I don't think it is an issue amongst the main people.
Okay. Okay.
And if it is, they just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, they some people might not have really paid much attention to it,
That's
even though
probably
you're
true.
on the
Most people
campaign
don't know.
trail. They might not even know about it until because I find a lot of people. I'm a political geekish kind of guy, so other than like the people that I kind of geek out with politics, I find most people don't even really know what their districts are, like what
You know.
who their house rep is or their senator, that kind of stuff, where they share like the districts with and stuff like that, who they might contact. They don't even know necessarily who their actual their congressman or congresswoman is in the
Yeah,
house
that is
or in the
true. I,
Senate.
I, I agree.
Yeah. So one of my other thoughts, so another question to get on is, and you kind of spoke about this earlier, is what are your thoughts on mandating things like the COVID vaccine or even just vaccines in general
Well,
at the
uh,
state level?
that's a state. I I'm a libertarian in this way. Keep your laws off my body. Um, I think that I am the authority of my body. I don't think the state should have any jurisdiction over what I do with my body. And I think I do believe in medical freedom in that way. So I am not a proponent at all of vaccine mandates, even for children. I mean, when I was a kid, I think I got 5 immunizations.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a lot of those childhood diseases like measles and mumps and chickenpox and all those things, and I've survived it.
And your body builds up the antibodies, so because of
right,
natural immunity.
And it's the same with COVID. I would, as I said, I trust my body. I trust my immune system. I try to stay healthy. I would much rather my body deal with the virus itself than a pharmaceutical, made what product. I just don't trust. I trust my body to deal with the virus more than I do the vaccine. That's just my own personal, preference. So, and even with children and vaccines, now that I got 5 immunizations, I think there's 18 now.
Yeah.
And
wow.
So I think, and I just think if you're concerned about it, you can get your children vaccinated. But if you don't really want your children vaccinated, I mean, you talk about herd immunity, but if my child is vaccinated, then I shouldn't be worried about whether yours is or not.
Right.
That's the whole idea of vaccines. And so I don't. I'm not a proponent of mandating vaccines.
Okay, that's good.
That's very good. I like that.
Let me go to the next step. For me, it's the same thing with abortion. Keep your laws off my body. So so for me, it's a very similar thing. I don't think the government should be telling me what I can and can't do with my body. So I mean, and again, that's a libertarian type of belief, and that's how I see it. I say, abortion is an unfortunate issue in our society. It's and it'd be nice if our society got to a point where it wasn't needed, where it was obsolete,
right?
Where we learn how to deal with it in a different way. But we're a long ways from that right now.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
And all we do by making it illegal, because it's going to continue to happen, whether it's legal or illegal. It's been happening for thousands of years.
Right. Prohibition doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. And so, and the only thing we do by making it illegal is we put women's lives at risk, and that's not acceptable to me. So that's where I am with that as well.
Okay. Yeah, that was definitely one of my questions. Just because I kind of I think I saw something where you wrote something where you said something similar to that. So that was kind of what I had envisioned your answer going to be. So, so in our email exchange back and forth, and this is a question I had from a couple of viewers, where do you fall on the Second Amendment?
So the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms.
Yep.
And I don't have a problem with that at all. I used to hunt. I don't hunt anymore. I used to hunt as a kid. I don't even own a gun right now. Although I'm thinking about picking one up because we've got so many damn deer on Beals Island right now, on Great Wallis Island. I mean, 30 years ago, I never saw a deer. Now I see 5 or 10 a day, and they're a nuisance.
Right.
But so, I guess the where I kind of draw a line is I don't have a problem with hunting at all. I don't have a problem with personal safety, but I'm not sure. For me, I'm not sure the need for semi-automatic weapons. As I say, I don't have a problem you going out and shooting a deer. I have a problem with the ability to go out and shoot a herd of deer. And so I guess that's. I mean,
what is semi-automatic weapons? Just about any weapon that's produced, though.
Well, and I don't know. And that may not be I mean, the ones that people use where they can go in and they can shoot a bunch of people. I mean, in the school shootings, things like that, where they have the ability to just mow people down. I don't even know what the right term of that, because I'm not a gun.
Sure. So I think what there's a couple different things, and this is kind of what I was pushing back on is so most modern guns are gonna, like, including hunting rifles, are usually semi-automatic weapons. So basically,
unless it's a bolt action.
That means that every time you want a bullet to come out, you have to pull the trigger.
Right. Okay.
Until there's no more bullets in the magazine, then you have to reload, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Now, what's happening is that in school shootings, people are using things like AR-15s,
right,
with high caliber,
but they're usually using bigger magazines. Sometimes
capacity,
30 rounds to 100 rounds, but they're also using different techniques that make them shoot fast, like rapid fire. They shoot faster. You know, someone might use a bump stock, which allows it to like bump up, and then because of that, it helps pull the trigger a little bit better, quicker.
Right.
And
then we can boil. The argument will become you can do it with your belt loop too. So
Right.
it's a very gray area.
Right.
Going down this road of I guess more hot topic issue with it right now, I guess, would be red flag and yellow flag laws, I think.
Right. So right now
let's
it's the yellow flag law.
Right. Where do you stand on the yellow flag law?
So again, you're going to have to explain specifically what those are. I mean, the red and yellow.
Sure. So yellow.
Jeremy can do a better job breaking it down.
So from what I gather, red flag laws.
I haven't paid much attention to them, quite frankly, because I'm not a gun person per se.
So red flag laws by default in some areas is where someone can essentially call the police and tell them that they are worried about their neighbor who seems like they're sick or ill, or has shown some violent issues. They can come in and confiscate their gun without any due process.
Well, no, that shouldn't be happening.
So, but yellow flag laws are kind of similar, but in order for them to confiscate the gun, they have to go to a judge. They have to show probable cause to the judge and get a warrant for the.
I believe they use a physician to gather that information to obtain it, though. So
they use like a doctor.
You're pretty much giving the due process to the doctor when it should be the judge. So that's just one area I see a problem with the yellow flag laws. But I'll let you continue, Jeremy. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of them.
But I believe after they're confiscated at the yellow law stage, I think that the confiscation lasts a year and then it expires.
Right.
They can renew it if they feel like it, they need to, things like that. And that's what we have at the state level. I would rather see yellow laws than red laws personally. I would rather see none of those laws though. And this is kind of what I want to push back on with the Second Amendment is that my issue is that, and my issue with regards to what you believe anyway, is that the Second Amendment isn't for deer hunting. It's so that it's to give you the legal right, essentially, to use it for self-defense from for helping yourself, but also against enemies, foreign and domestic. Yes. So essentially, if we got here as like a revolution. So in this instance, the Second Amendment would help aid in that kind of thing if something were to happen. Now, I'm assuming there's a violent rise up, but I mean that would be what the Second Amendment would help, so that the government just not coming in and confiscating our weapons before that happens.
Right.
So it's not about necessarily hunting and deer and things like that. It
helps keep a balance
of liberties and freedom
to
keep everybody honest, including the government. So because of that, I wouldn't want the government to have any sort of undue influence or advantage over my rights and liberties, as the Second Amendment says, luckily.
I guess the only thing I'm thinking when you're talking about this, though, it would be nice if we could figure out. I mean, for example, all these mass shooters. I mean, most of these people are mentally ill. Okay?
Right. Yep.
Obviously, and they a lot of them are probably on medication, which may make things worse for them.
Yeah, it might.
I'm glad you bring up that point of it.
So it would be nice if there was a concern about somebody that you could come in and do something preemptively before they go and do something like that. Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're at that stage where we can do that yet, but it would be nice if you could preempt, somebody that is dangerous and to themselves or other people, and who are also have a mental illness on top of that. So, I mean, in that case, it may be where you need to go to a medical provider as well as a judge.
Right. Maybe it's both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that yellow law makes sense. Now, again, it can be abused like any law, but
Right.
it
Right.
would be nice to have something on the books where if you were concerned about somebody, there is a process through which you can do that to preempt some type of crazy, you know, deluge of something.
Outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Right.
do believe that we definitely have a mental health issue, not
Oh,
just in the
absolutely.
state, but across the country. And I
Absolutely.
think that we definitely need better mental health services to
Absolutely.
help fix those issues. So like you said, the people that are shooting up schools and stuff, they're not people that are in their right mind. They're just
Yeah.
people
No, they're crazy.
that
They're
need
insane. They are actually insane. And
right. They need mental health
yeah,
and they
absolutely.
need to be stopped. I mean, the only thing is I think we agree, all of us, that we want to find a way that we could do something before the damage happens.
Right.
Right. I also want to iterate that with talking about bringing up someone's mental health and getting them the help that they need, um, we also need to look and realize that there's a problem with physicians and how they're quick to prescribe instead of using a uh,
Like
a
holistic.
method that's less evasive.
Yep. No, absolutely. You know, physicians are not trained as counselors per se. I mean, I've done a lot of counseling because I think that there's a lot of people need that, and no, we all have issues. Let's face it. You
Right.
know,
None of us
Right.
are
you know,
No,
we're all
absolutely.
humans.
some of us have more issues than others.
Absolutely.
That's just part of being human. I
Absolutely.
mean, yeah, and so, but some people, I mean, some people have come through incredible abuse and trauma and neglect. And so they're typically going to have more issues based on that. Giving them a drug is not going to save the problem or solve the problem. I mean, it's just going to may help the symptoms, but the problem is that they need to do their own work. To know they got some healing to do, and you know, and that means, you know, a lot of times people are going to have to see a counselor to do that, but that may or may not work depending on the counselor, whatever. So it is a huge problem, and it is the number one health issue I think in our country. You know, whether it's about depression or anxiety, or you know, substance abuse, or you know, school shootings, or people going down rabbit holes, and you know, and the far extremes of the right and left. I mean, we've got there's a lot of mental health issues going on, and I don't know how we solve that, but it's a huge problem, and actually, and our society is just a reflection of that.
Right.
The craziness we see in our society. I mean, you know, that's part of the whole problem. And
Yeah.
how do we go about that again? So it goes back to children and making sure that those children are safe, and that's why daycare and schools would be good, because you see if children are having issues very young, and we try to do preventive interaction then, and if the child's having a problem, chances are the parents are having a problem.
Mhm.
And so you can maybe intervene and help them out and give them what they need, so that there is that they're just healthier, mentally healthier, and physically healthier. And so that's
Right.
part of it. And the community is more likely to be able to see that and do something about that. And again, that's why I think community is so important.
And
Absolutely.
oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy. Go ahead.
I was just agreeing with him.
Okay, I just I wanted to also move into another point to make because you brought up substance abuse. I know with Paul LePage, he recently just had a press conference where he was down in Portland. I think it's Deer Park, I believe the name of the park is, where there's a lot of homelessness and substance abuse that happens down there.
Yeah,
Maybe that was
And
Deering Park,
yeah.
Daring Park.
Deering Oaks.
Deering Oaks. Okay.
Okay. I knew it's something along the lines there. But do you feel that Janet Mills has failed in this area for Mainers, like Paul LePage?
Well, you know, I don't, I wouldn't say the problem is our whole country doesn't. We have not come to what we're not really dealing with the problem. We're dealing with the symptoms. I mean, I mean, the whole country's like this. It's not just Janet Mills. Matter of fact,
Right.
people look at Maine as an example of what to do, but I don't think what we're doing is really working, because the problem's getting worse, not better. But I think that, I mean, the whole idea of this, putting people on methadone or buprenorphine, which is Suboxone, all we're doing was we're substituting a street drug for a pharmaceutical drug that is as addictive, if not worse. And that again can be a short-term fix to get people off the streets and get them stable and get them so that they're not withdrawing. But that should be a very short-term solution, and people really have to start recovery work. When I talk about people having issues, I've worked with lots of addicts, and it is amazing that the stories that they tell, that they've actually survived to the point that they're at. I mean, with just huge amounts of abuse and trauma and neglect, especially as children. And so you carry that into adulthood. And I understand that people, when they use opiates, it's the only time where all that just goes away.
Right. It's
and they are free. They just feel like they're in bliss because all the shit goes away.
Yeah.
all the underlying, mental and emotional and spiritual dis-ease goes away. And so I understand why they do it. But then after a while, just because of addiction, and then they can't do without the drug. But I understand addiction. And so it's really about recovery. It's really about people. Most people who are addicts feel like a piece of shit.
Right. Absolutely. There's the stigma that sticks with it.
It's hard to take care of a piece of shit.
Right, because they don't care about themselves. They
don't care about themselves, because they have no self-esteem, they have no self-worth. But how can you when you've grown up with abuse and neglect your whole life?
Right.
Right.
So that I see is the problem. And so that takes a concerted effort of rehabilitation and recovery of oneself. Because when someone is an addict, the addict is in control, and the addict doesn't give a shit about you or anything about you or even themselves. All the addict wants is their next fix, and they will lie, cheat, and steal to get it. And so every time, the person inside is suffering the whole time from the behavior of the addict. That's how I see it, and that's what we really need to start looking at for rehabilitation and recovery as a way to deal with it. And that's why I think we ought to turn one of our prisons into a rehabilitation center. Most of the people in prison are there because of drug-related crime.
Right.
We really need to start rehabilitation and recovery efforts. That's how I see it.
Okay, so would you see? This is where I personally disagree with some Republicans, because most Republicans are really callous in this area, and I'm for more treatment options myself as a Republican. But I think where liberals or Democrats are going wrong is how they're approaching the situation. Like safe injection sites, I don't believe are the answer. I do believe methadone clinics, Suboxone clinics, even places that have beds where people can go to a detox center. We need more resources for those, in my opinion. But that's where I differ from Republicans a little bit. But would you be in more favor of treatment centers, vice which way the Democrats are going with safe injection sites?
Well, no.
No.
So the Democrats are enablers.
Absolutely.
So and what happens is, we put them on drugs, and we enable the addiction to continue. We think we're saving these people, but we just continue the whole process of addiction. They become dependent on another drug. They become dependent on a medical system. They have to go to the doctor to get their drugs, and so it costs us money. And
absolutely.
There's no end to it. So I think it's really about people taking responsibility for themselves and their problem, but they do need support, and it needs to be an ongoing support. I think Suboxone and methadone should be a finite duration. It should be maybe
a tool.
Yeah, it's a bridge. It's a bridge to get
you. Right. It sounds like it sounds like more of the conversation needs to be held around about how in treatment we approach the situation. And I guess what I mean by that is what treatment looks like to get people where they need. When they do put people into these programs, you are correct. They do make them reliant Like one big thing I'd like to see treatment centers do is bring in more businesses to help people to find them work, have more ways to get them into the job community, to get them that, because like you were saying, most addicts feel like a piece of shit. And one way to get that self-worth back is to give someone self-purpose, and putting someone back to work is definitely the right way to go, I think. But so elaborate a little bit on that if you would.
I agree. So I say turning a prison into rehabilitation center where people they go in, they maybe they stay for a month and then they start going out. And they do go get a job, and maybe their family even comes with them if they have small children or a spouse. That if they don't come with them, they can visit anytime they like. So it's not just like, it's not prison, but it is a place where it's an inpatient type of place where people they need long-term rehabilitation. And maybe how that goes, it's going to be different for every person. Some people are going to need more than that. So some people are going to need more support and counseling and recovery. But I think that's the direction we need to go in. And we need to give the responsibility of that recovery back to the person and stop enabling the addiction through pharmaceutical drugs. That's how I see it. Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Sean?
All I had left for questions would be following around sappy issues with Kennebec and the fish, and where your stance is with that, because there's a lot of people that are worried about losing those jobs.
Yeah,
and that seems to be a really hot topic right now.
Yep. Well, I think I said before, I mean, we would all like to see hundreds of thousands of salmon come back up that river. I mean, we'd all like to see that. And so, but the question is that even if we took out all the dams, is that really a realistic possibility?
Is it theoretical? Yeah.
And so, I think we need to find. There's a couple of things I thought of doing. Again, these are just thoughts, and we all have thoughts. One is it would be nice to have some way of those fish to get beyond the dams, and there's got to be different technologies, different ways of doing that. I mean, I think we need to look into that. The other thing I was thinking would it be possible to have a way to an outlet at the bottom of these dams, and we just drain the damn things 1 month a year during the runs of the salmon. We just close down all the mills for that 1 month, let the salmon come, and then start them back up again. I mean, that's a thought. Is it feasible? I don't know, but that might be, but again, I would like to I'd like to see
at least it sounds like you're open to having the discussion. So that definitely seems like a move in the right direction. I would definitely say.
Right. Nobody has the answers right now, unfortunately.
No, absolutely.
And, as long as we all come together, including the stakeholders that are there, SAPI, the local businesses that are outliers that are indirectly impacted by it. There's no reason why we need to shut down the dam over 5 fish a year.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. There's got to be some way that, I heard multiple people say that they would just go down to the dam and they themselves would just carry the salmon over to the other side.
Or just net them all and get them on the other side. I mean, there's got to be a way of doing that. And you just wait till they go up to the next one and get them all over. There's got to be a different way of doing it. And then, we talk about fish ladders. We've been talking about fish ladders for 70 years. I mean, maybe there's some kind of elevator you can use. They go into an elevator and you go, I don't know, but there's got to be ways. Different. We have to be able to come up with some alternative way for those fish to get beyond those dams.
Yeah,
I have seen things on YouTube about how they take the flow of the river and say, like, use the right or left side of it, and they build a trench. And they just use gravity to feed into like a hole that goes into the turbine, and then it cuts back into the river, eliminating the dam and just moving it off to the right or left. That could be a possible way to solve that issue, maybe. But like we said, it comes down to the finite resources of how it's going to be paid for.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm sure, just to keep the dam, someone like Sappy and some of the other people that are involved, they would, I'm sure, gladly do it just to stay operating, because otherwise
Sure.
they don't have that ability to move things across. So
Right.
if it's
One,
either you help do this or you essentially close,
Right.
I'm sure they would help do this to get it
Right.
done.
right.
Right.
Well, and another thing
Push
too
comes to
is that we
shove.
see with politics time and time again, they're more focused on the upfront issue instead of down the road 20, 30 years. Um,
Yep.
the
Well,
the
yeah.
long term.
Whichever
But they're planning.
whichever is going to be favorable for them politically is what they're going to do.
Right.
Right.
In that
So
time frame
again,
too.
for me, it always goes back: is this good for children? Is it good for their future? And
Right.
that's why that's my and we have to figure out what is best for them in this situation.
Yep.
Absolutely. But yeah, I guess we can wind it down. Is there anything else that you'd like to get out and let people know about your campaign? Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on my website first of all, and I have not this last couple of weeks. I don't have much scheduled. I don't have a campaign manager, so I've just been waiting for people to come to me, and I've responded and gone. And I've been really busy the last couple of weeks. Today I didn't have anything scheduled, so I just went out, and I'm in the Portland area, so I went around, did signs. I went to USM and talked to students. And passed out my cards and my some buttons. So that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And then I got another podcast on Thursday, a live one that a 14-year-old wants to do with me. So that'll be
Nice.
cool.
Hey,
Yeah. So and I'm really trying to see what I can do to reach young people. As I tell
that's the hardest thing in politics right now.
yes,
Reaching
yes,
young
yes.
people.
Yep, and but as I tell them, I mean, they are the future, and I want to get a lot of them into government as soon as and put them as co-directors of or commissioners. I mean, we really, the baby boomers, we need to get out of here. We've had our
Right.
time.
Right. You guys
So,
are running everything.
I'm
It's hard.
65 years old. I'm too old to be doing this, but I'm doing this because you guys aren't. So
Yeah.
And so, and yet, Mills and LePage are almost 10 years older than me. And so we need to move on and get you guys in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to I definitely have to commend you for the hard work of getting on the ballot, because as we talked about earlier,
Yeah, it's not an easy
Harrison,
feat.
we tried to get Harrison on the Libertarian Party Maine on the ballot, and it's just, that to get those 4,000 signatures is just so hard. So
I remember when Aaron Chadbourne was running as a write-in candidate. So yeah, there's been a few. It's an uphill battle for sure, being the
Well,
third
and the parties
candidate.
don't the parties don't want independence there. I mean, they don't.
No, absolutely not.
And it would be great to. I mean, we all thought that when we voted for ranked choice voting, and that's what we'd have, but that's not what the case is. And the legislature is not going to change that. It's probably going to have to take another referendum to change the Constitution. But most of us want that, and that's really going to be the real way to get an independent in there again. Unless you're like Angus King and you got a lot of money and you got fame or fortune. I was told I couldn't be here without fame, fortune, or a political party, and yet here I am. And so I am proof that you can do it. It takes a lot of hard work, but both you guys can do this.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does, and
not something I'd want to do.
Well, every other day I thought it was crazy out there in the streets getting signatures. What the hell are you doing out here? So
I think the only reason I wouldn't run for governor is because for the last 10 years I've worked on campaigns. So seeing what's behind the curtain, I commend you. It's not something that I would want to take on. Just because
it's
not for everyone. No, it's not.
Yep.
No, it's not. That's for sure. But I want to definitely thank you for coming on All Sides of Kennebec. Anything you want to add to Jeremy?
No, just thank you for coming on. And if you have any like last words?
Yeah, your website. What is it, and are you on Facebook at all?
I'm on Facebook, and so the website is standwithsam2022.com. And I think this Facebook's the same thing. My daughter runs it, so I can't remember what it is because I'm not on it. I was never on Facebook, so I need to get younger people to do this.
We'll throw it up in the link, and we'll put it in our description so people can find it.
Right.
So
one of the things I just want to say that somebody when I was there was a guy his name is Eli Berry. He's a farmer up in Washington, Maine, and he gave me this perspective I thought was really good. So when you're out on the ocean and you're navigating, if you just have 2 points, you don't go anywhere. If you just have two perspectives, you're going to go around in circles. You can go that way, that direction a little bit, and then you're going to go that way a little direction, but there's no forward movement. You can't go anywhere. You need a third perspective. You need a third point in order to navigate. And I think that's what we need. I think we're stuck in our political system that we're getting.
The balance is gone.
Further divided, and I think we do need a new perspective. We need a third party. We need an independent in there to do that. And I thought that was just such a great metaphor for what we need, because as I said before, we all want something different, but we just don't know what that looks like. And so again, I'm just putting something out there, and if you like it, great. If not, and fine. And I'm hoping that there's going to be somebody that follows in my steps, and I'm going to be behind them next time.
Yeah, so our plan is definitely to have a libertarian on the ballot for 2026. So that is definitely our plan. So I hope to talk to you about some support, when you win.
Okay, yes. Sounds good.
Thank you, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on.
We appreciate the chat.
Yeah.
Again, I want to thank everybody for checking into All Sides of Kennebec. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. I'm sure there's some buttons somewhere in this feed that says share, like,
there will
and
be.
Follow everything. Whatever platform you're watching from. But definitely thank you for checking into All Sides of Kennebec. Also want to thank a shared studio for making this possible. Until next time, remember, a true patriot questions everything.
And don't forget, tomorrow we'll have Tiffany Bond on, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them here and or message us, and we'll get those to her. And thank you guys to everybody. Thanks, and hope you guys have a good night.
Okay, you too.
Have a great one.
Okay.
All right.